All right, guys, it is the weekend, and we are going to look at some hot takes from Reddit and some weird news stories, some crazy news stories. I have a wheel here, so if you guys have any suggestions as we're going along, if you're watching this live, we can add it to the wheel, we can spin it, and whenever the topic is chosen, we can talk about it. I'm also dropping the link into the chat from time to time. If anybody wants to pop in, you're more than welcome to do that. And our first topic is going to be Kanye versus Adidas. Now, this is not a complete topic. This has been a saga that's been ongoing for a very long time. But Kanye recently deleted all of his Instagram posts, and he has one of his daughter Northwest. And then he has this other letter that he leaked. It looks like an email from internal communications between Yeezy. So somehow he got this email. Maybe someone sent it to him. And it goes over Yeezy talking points. So Kanye recently did a video on Instagram, which you'll see again. It's part of what he deleted. He basically said Yeezys that are coming out now, they're fake. They're not real Yeezys, and Adidas is selling fake shoes. Adidas had to send out this internal email to their team to let them know how to react to this, how to handle this, and do some brand management. So, on Kanye's Twitter, he posts this with the caption, "This is the document they give employees at Adidas when asked questions about Yeezy. There is an overlap to Adidas and Kim." So Kim's catching a stray here. "Ignoring my opinion on where my kids go to school, or people ignoring my name change, or the entire celebrity culture ostracizing me for my political opinion. It all comes down to," he doesn't use a period here, but the I in it is capitalized. Same thing here. So I don't know. I don't know if he's writing this and then deleting the punctuation. But there's capitalization where, it would make grammatical sense for a period to be. So, there's that. Anyway, he says, "It all comes down to human rights, which you sacrifice when you're stigmatized with mental issues. All these situations are actually far crazier than what I've been branded to be." So, I think some people think that when they think of the word crazy, they might picture someone like Ye or Yeezy or Kanye. But according to Ye, some of these situations are actually crazier than they're made out to be. But in this case, he's leaking this internal email that's telling Yeezy employees or Adidas employees how to react to questions about the Yeezy shoe line. As you've probably seen, and Kanye went, and you see this red mark here, it might be small on your screen. It must have said Kanye, and Ye took a red marker and crossed out the K-A-N, so it just says Ye. So it says his correct name, his legal name. "Has posted statements around the Yeezy release here and here," and this was linking to what's now deleted as Instagram posts, "on the authenticity of the shoes and being paid for the design," because he was also saying he wasn't being paid for the design. "If you or your teams get questions, here are a few," and it's bolded, "reactive talking points you can use. Adidas is the sole owner of the product, including the design rights for existing products as well as previous colorways partnership. The products are existing Yeezy designs initiated in 2022. Adidas honored contractual obligations and discussed releasing products prior to the announcement with the former," and that's cut off, so I don't know what it says. "Although these talking points can be helpful, please refrain for extended conversation." So don't go on and keep gossiping with people that are asking you stuff. Just stick to these bullet points. Or any other altercations regarding this topic. And by topic, I think they mean anything related to Kanye. "Further inquiries to the following should be sent to the following email address. As a reminder, any media or other requests for comment should be referred to the below address. Please do not add additional points as part of an interview or media inquiry. This is only to assist in general comments by consumers. If you receive any concerning or threatening comments or communication, please notify the retail hotline immediately." So then they put their corporate press email number down here. So there's that. And again, this is Kanye posting this and crossing out where they wrote Kanye, so it just says Ye. This has been an ongoing saga. I don't know if you guys have followed some of the stuff, but last year Adidas made an attempt to... This is the wrong article. Hold on. They made an attempt to freeze $75 million, which sounds like whatever, right? But they were trying to freeze it in Kanye's bank account. They just made an order to ask a judge to order a bank to freeze $75 million in someone's bank account. And the federal judge, within a week, they turned around the decision really quickly. They were just like, yeah, no. So, but that's kind of like the brevity of this back and forth going on between Adidas and Ye, where they're saying, you know what? We're severing partnerships with you, and we want back $75 million that you're already holding, that we've given to you. We want that back, and we're going to ask a judge to hold it and freeze it. And so we can fight to make them compel you to give it back to us. Which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Maybe it doesn't seem like a big deal if someone is a celebrity and wealthy and could find another way to use their brand power to get that money back. But can you imagine if, like, a smaller individual, if companies were able to just go and freeze money in someone's account? So, there's that. But most recently, if you want to know what Kanye was actually saying that caused this email to be sent out, he claimed that Adidas is still trying to sue him for $250 million, that they're releasing fake Yeezys still, despite whatever contractual obligations have been fulfilled or not fulfilled. And he made a bunch of posts. It was a static image post that's been deleted and a video post, which are now taken down. But he did call the Yeezy 350s fake. And what did he say? Anybody who loves Ye would not buy these fake Yeezys. I never made these colorways. I'm not getting paid off of them. And Adidas is suing me. All the new non-approved 350s are corny with 3 O's. And everybody knows the 350 been corny. So he's posting these on his Instagram. Just for context, if we go back to this post here, he's getting over 1 million likes on this post. So there's obviously some impact that Adidas has to address, right? You have someone that currently is topping the Billboard charts for 2 weeks in a row calling your shoe line that's probably aimed at a similar audience, a similar consumer, a similar demographic. The person topping the charts is now calling your shoes ugly and corny. And then alleging that there's bad behavior going on too, right? So on moral principle, don't buy this line, don't support Adidas. So I'm sure we're not going to see the last of this, but you've got Kanye and sneakers going to war. And then let me check in on you guys here. And then yeah, Pam, if you can join when you're out of work, that'd be awesome. It's always good when you're on. And then hey, Amina. And then hey, Belle, you're here. You're not on replay crew. And yes, so we're going to do that briefly. So what Tracker's referencing here, so we are talking about the spiritual leader who trained his congregants to crop on trees. So we're going to talk about a cult leader who was just found guilty of a bunch of charges. He's going to serve life without parole. We're specifically going to look at his sentencing speech, where he tried to plead with the judge or something. I don't even know if it was a plea with the judge. We're going to look at his sentencing speech. But yeah, crazy stuff. So that's what Tracker's referencing here. He went by Nature Boy and a few other names. I think the cult was called like Carbon World or something like that. And he was polygamous. He had multiple wives. One of the wives really was the one that came forward and said, hey, he's doing some awful things. So that helped score the conviction against him. But just weird stuff going on with that trial. If you guys go over to Nique at Night, that's Nique, she has been doing live streams of all the days of that trial. It was really short, but 3-4 hours each for each trial day. I think it was about 3 days. You can go and watch that case in full. Some insane stuff, but we're going to look at what I think is the highlight of that cult trial. So, and yeah, so is that where Trump got the idea to sell sneakers from Kanye? And then, hey, QC1. And then I do not think so. I do not think Jordan is touching anything near Adidas. And it's Eliza. So yes, that's exactly the point is, Ye, no matter what has gone on, no matter what any individual's opinion of Ye is, he still has consumer power. Adidas can't ignore that. I'm not that far from Orlando. It's the closest city to me in Florida. And I didn't really know until it was happening, but he appeared at a Travis Scott concert. Like, this was like 2 weeks ago. And nobody was talking about Travis Scott anymore. They were all just talking about Kanye being there. And there's all these like posts on Facebook and X of people saying, "Oh my God, Kanye's going to be there. I'm running there from work." Like, people were excited to go. So he still has brand power. You know, people in that young age demographic, probably the most likely to be wanting to buy sneakers that look cool. So Adidas kind of has to care. Yeah, so Tracker, at this point, does he just get a direct deposit that he doesn't even notice? You know, I never know, because didn't he... Was it Mark Zuckerberg? Maybe someone remembers, but was it Mark Zuckerberg that Kanye made a plea? He was like, "I'm bankrupt. Can you lend me, or can you give me..." I don't remember what he asked for, but I think it was like a couple $1,000,000. It wasn't a small ask. But I think it was Mark Zuckerberg that Kanye was tweeting out to. So, and then yeah, crap on trees. So he used to make his cult congregation kind of like they go out and poop or pee in the wild to return everything back to the earth. And if you were going number 2, you were allowed 6 squares of toilet paper. So, really, really interesting cult. And then, yeah, so no updates on Jonathan Majors, but I agree. Like, if you look at some of the case, so shout out to the Fancast podcast here. So we're not going to have an update on the Jonathan Majors unless something new happens before April 1st, which is when Judge Gaffey is supposed to make a decision on the motion to set aside the verdict and the motion to seal certain records that the New York Times kind of seems to have come out and put in public anyway. But yeah, I think once you look at the transcripts, once you start looking even just a little bit into that Jonathan Majors case, guys, if you found this channel more recently and have not gone back and looked at some of the live streams where all of us got together to talk about Jonathan Majors and look at the transcripts, look at the motions, look, I can't, you couldn't convince me that he was not innocent. That man is innocent. He was railroaded by the Manhattan DA. I mean, the man wasn't even offered a plea deal, which is insane. They wanted to take that to court and make a spectacle of it. So, shout out to the Fancast podcast, because even though there's nothing new in that regard for us to talk about, it's still something that I think is a huge issue, and I can't wait until we have an update. And then, yeah, so QC1's adding that, like, the cult leader was more than just the crapping on trees. And he was watching, yeah, he was doing stuff for 7 years. I don't know, when you watch some of the witnesses testify, they're trying to blurt things, like witnesses that are still sympathetic to him as their leader. They start blurting things into the microphone, like this is prosecutorial misconduct, and then the judge and the state have to object. The guy tried to kick his lawyer off until the judge was like, well, if you want to represent yourself, that's fine, but you'd have to recall witnesses, you'd have to prepare your evidence, you'd basically be starting from square one, and since this is the middle of the trial, if you can't do that overnight, which I'm not going to let you do, you're basically going to jump right to closing arguments. Do you want to do that? And at first he was like, yeah, and then he was like, no, never mind. But like, he almost went sob sit, like... And yeah, so if you buy the new Yeezys, you should be scorned by Yeezy fans. And I think, like, part of the thing, too, is if you wanted Yeezys, you should be buying them because you wanted them to be Yeezys, right? Wasn't that a big part of it? So then if the... I don't know, I feel like... I think of, like, Alexander McQueen and, you know, these designers that are the face of a certain aesthetic, a certain look. Once they are no longer doing their work or they pass away and it's someone else is now the face behind the creative design, the creative vision. Some people might stick around, but a lot of people, they just don't connect with it anymore, right? So, and then let's see. And Kanye's learned a thing or two from the Kardashian circle. And I still think it's funny that Kim just caught us stray here. There's an overlap to Adidas and Kim, ignoring my opinion on where my kids go to school. Like, what? Yeah, Tracker, I gotta go through that video, but I'm not sure how much I can play with it without it, like, ripping off that channel. So I'd have to go through it and find like the primary material. And then, yeah, there's a topic wheel. So let's go back to the wheel, you guys. Watch it land on Nature Boy. Now we're going to do dumb criminals. Okay, now there's a lot of dumb criminals that are just funny dumb. This is actually a pretty heavy case, you guys. So warning in advance. This is another story. There's another trial set to start on March 11th for the co-conspirator. But the main one, it's a murder for hire plot. Like, just a terrible story. But a husband hired a high school friend to kill someone. Like, so we're going to read the brief story here, but I want you to pay attention to the way that they were caught, the way that this was investigated. So, married St. Louis principal pleads guilty to hiring hitman to kill his pregnant teacher girlfriend and her unborn baby. Cornelius M. Green pleaded guilty Wednesday in a plea agreement that will see state charges, which carry the possibility of the death penalty, dropped if he's sentenced to life. So he's going to end up being sentenced, right? But, oh, do I have the... Okay, this is the right article. A married Missouri middle school principal who hired a friend to kill his pregnant girlfriend and her unborn child has pleaded guilty to the 2016 murder for hire plot. Cornelius Green, who is principal at Carr Lane Visual and Performing Arts Middle School in St. Louis, was accused of orchestrating the murder of 30-year-old Jocelyn Peters and her unborn baby on March 24, 2016. Green pleaded guilty to the federal charges of murder for hire conspiracy and murder for hire on Wednesday. So under this plea, basically, they're not going to follow up with the state charges that would have put the death penalty on the table. So he's just going to do life. So this is the story behind this murder for hire. Stolen money and a fake alibi. Despite being married, Green, quote, was involved in multiple romantic relationships with other women and had an ongoing romantic relationship with Peters, according to the March 2022 indictment. Peters became pregnant with his child in 2015. Green devised a plan to murder Peters and her unborn baby by stealing money from the school he oversaw. So he's going to steal money from a place that looks at their money to pay off his close friend in Oklahoma, Philip J. Cutler, to conduct the killing, the indictment purported. Green texted Cutler on February 29, 2016, to come to St. Louis the week of March 20th, 2016, and Coulter responded, "Okay, that will work. You gonna be sending the package?" So, they're texting on a phone. Days later, Green sent Cutler a package with $2,500. So that's all it takes. He used the middle school's address while sending it. So he takes $2,500 from the school. He texts his friend. His friend texts him back, "Are you going to send the package?" So he takes that $2,500 he took from the school, puts it in a package with the middle school's address, and then sends it to Oklahoma to get it over to Philip J. Cutler. Cutler traveled from Oklahoma to St. Louis on March 21st, 2016. The following day, Green and Cutler together took Green, so they all get in Green's car. They take his 2013 white Kia Optima to an Amtrak station, and Green took the train to Chicago, leaving Cutler with the Kia and keys. So, the murderer for hire, the friend from high school, from middle school. Are you guys even still in touch? How many friends from middle school are you guys still in touch with? But this guy's in touch with Philip J. Cutler, who must be a good enough friend if you're going to come kill somebody for $2,500. So anyway, he says, "Bro, I need an alibi. You're going to take my car, drive me to the train station, take me to Amtrak. I'm going to get in that Amtrak. I'm going to head to Chicago. You keep the Kia, hold the keys. And I'm just going to take this Amtrak to Chicago so I have an alibi." So Cutler now has the Kia and the keys, including keys that access Peter's apartment. So he had the keys to the pregnant girlfriend's apartment, according to charging documents. Green travels to Chicago to establish his alibi on March 24th, 2016. So he's gone for some amount of time, so 3 days. Cutler entered Peter's apartment, found her in bed, and shot her with a firearm to the head, and used, quote, a potato as a silencer to muffle the sound of the shot, the indictment said. She was more than 27 weeks pregnant at the time. Cutler then called Green to report that the murder had been conducted. So then you have the call right after the time of death. That same day, Green used his cell phone and a Visa credit card, to purchase an Amtrak ticket back to St. Louis from Chicago's Union Station, so there would be verification he was in Chicago at the time of the slaying. So he's like just thinking this alibi's got him. He's good. When he returned to St. Louis, he went to Peter's home and called 911. So he gets back home. Somehow he must get the keys back. He goes to Peter's home and then calls 911 to report that she was shot. Quote, falsely pretending that he had no knowledge of the circumstances leading to her death. So an attorney for Green said, Nicholas Williams said, Mr. Green understood his choices and made the one that did not compound the tragedy of the situation. So he's like, my client did it. We're not even fighting it. We're just glad he's not making this worse. So Cutler has his trial March 11th. He's the one that actually was the murder for hire. So insane story. Like, what did this guy think? I mean, I'm like totally glad he's stupid. I'm totally glad both of them are stupid. This isn't just one person being stupid. They're both stupid. All to kill a girlfriend, like presumably because maybe she wanted to keep the baby and that was the issue. But you've got a middle school friend you just hit up and you're like, hey bro, do you want to make $2,500? And you do this through phone, through texting, you address the package with the school address that you work at. Like, I don't know. And then, yeah, let's see. Yeah, like one high school friend. Like, can you imagine, like, having friends from back in the day? And I still have friends, like, if I were to speak to them, it's always, like, a good time. It's like, hey, cool, like, it's back. We're still the same. We remember how we used to be as teenagers. And, Pam, are you here? If you want to come up, Pam, I don't see your video. But if you're just speaking, let me know. Let's see if Pam's coming up.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. All right. Yay, so you have Pam with us. You're up on the screen now. Are you at work? Are you working right now?
Shh. Don't tell nobody.
It's all right. We're not dumb criminals around here.
Don't tell nobody. Shh.
Did you catch this story with the murder for hire?
I didn't. Hold on. I'm just trying to change my avatar. Let's see. Oh, did it come up? Good.
I see it now.
All right. Okay. No, I didn't catch. I saw it about the principal with the teacher and all this other stuff. So I caught a little bit of it. I snuck away.
Well, basically, this guy's like, I'm going to get an alibi and I'm going to take an Amtrak. I'm going to use a Visa credit card so there's a record of me being gone. I'm going to go to Chicago. I'm going to stay there for 3 days. And my friend from high school, or middle school, I'm going to pay him $2,500 that I took from the school I work at. And I'm going to pay him to go shoot this girl. And then I'm going to come back home on the train. And I'm going to go to her apartment and then I'm going to call 911. And nobody's ever going to know. Okay. Just dumb. Just dumb.
And I heard you say something about what kind of friends you have from junior high school or high school that you could pay. What kind of good friend? That's not a good friend. That's not a friend at all. You just knew that
it's another dumb friend.
Yeah, that's not even a friend. You knew
it's a dumb person.
You knew that this person was about that life, and so you paid him. But he wasn't a friend, because I don't have friends, and I could be just speaking from only my perspective. But I don't have friends that I could give money to and say, hey, take this money and you go prune from the timeline this person. No, I don't have friends like that. That's not a friend.
Yeah, no, crazy story. And like even after all these years, like maybe they're like Facebook friends or something, but like did you stay in touch otherwise? Did you look them up somewhere? Like how did you even I mean, you're an adult working, you were gainfully employed, sort of. Like, where did you keep in touch with this person for so long or know how to get back in touch with them? To be like, hey man, I know you're good for it. What would it take? And then they're just like $2,500. Like, that is not, when you hear these like murder for hire cases, usually it's like at least 5 figures on someone's life. That's insane.
It's too much for me. It's too much for me. That's too much for me because all of this, when you could have used a condom or stayed at home with your own wife, it doesn't make any sense to me. Makes no sense. No
Dealt
sense.
with just choose to be a deadbeat then. Like, great, you're going to be called a deadbeat, but two people can still be alive.
Right.
So you'd rather do life in prison and take two lives, and for what?
I don't understand the mindset sometimes. It's just like, and I don't know, maybe guys can say this, but if you're gonna live that lifestyle, if you're gonna do all of these things, why are you all not first in line for vasectomies? Why are you not first in lines? I don't understand. I'm not condoning it. I just don't understand. If you're going to live that life, you're going to be about that life. Why are you all not the first people in the front lines for a vasectomy? Because then you don't have to, you live your life, and the worst that'll happen is your wife finds out. You're not unaliving and doing all this thing for other people. But in my Fanny
Or
my
bringing a whole new life into it.
right, in my Fani Willis video, I said, y'all leave these married folks alone. I don't care what they tell you, how separated they say they are, and leave these married folks alone until they can show you a complete and utter divorce decree. Leave these folks alone, because this is what happens when you are messing with people who, first of all, they may or may not have any morals, but other than that, when people feel that they have so much to lose, they become unhinged. Leave these folk alone. Leave them alone.
Wild. And especially you're mentioning, I don't know if it'd be the next on the wheel, but I don't know if you've been following the YSL trial. Let's spin this wheel, because actually both options are a little bit wild or unhinged. So let's see what it gives us.
Let's see what we got.
All right, we're doing the Nature Boy cult.
Oh God. Oh
Are you
God.
are you up on the
Let me
news about the Nature Boy cult?
fun fact. Years ago, he used to be on like YouTube and Instagram,
Yes,
and I
they didn't
remember
bring the video in. They asked about one of the videos from his YouTube channel though.
because what happened was, he was when the conscious communities have fights, they have these big huge fights, and they were going back and forth and going back and forth. But I remember seeing the video where they arrested him. And I also remember seeing the video that he had maybe a few months before, where he was like dogging out the women in his cult about
Yes.
them thinking that they were more than him, because he had, at that point, he had gotten rid of all of the men. He had because for some reason, now I'm thinking, remember, it's something about sexually transmitted infections, and there were a lot of, he was supposedly, and it's alleged because I'm not sure whether or not it was true or not, but it was something about him giving someone a sexually transmitted infection, and then this kind of brouhaha happened, and it may have been going on with this the woman that the victim in this case. I don't remember, but I do remember seeing this video, and when I tell you, this man, unhinged was not the word. It was almost
Well, they tried to call it themselves spiritual improv. One of the cult members took the stand that's still sympathetic to Nature Boy, and they tried to ask him about some of the content that was on those YouTube channels. They're like, "Well, you've said you've never seen him be violent before, but there's a video where it was on their YouTube channel where he's slapping someone for not bringing him a strawberry, and it used to be." So Nick at Night was saying that it used to be a meme, like it was stuff that people used to quote that video.
Yeah, it
And
was.
the witness on the stand was like, "Oh, that's just spiritual improv. He's not a violent person."
No, that's not. No,
Yeah.
he had, because I don't know if it was Instagram that took him down or YouTube that took him down, because there was a video that he had where he was going off on the women, and then I think it was something. Oh, you think it was something about a woman took a shower before he took a shower, and he went completely bananas, and he was calling her out her name and stuff, and then he was making her lay down prostrate and said, "Don't look up at me, y'all can't look up at me, women are this and your property." Or it was I remember that, and it was a mess. And then I remember the video that he got arrested, and then it just kind of everything kind of like died down from there. But I remember seeing him in a video, and I was like, wow, this is some serious stuff right here. I didn't think cults like this existed since Jim Jones. But y'all might be too young
Well,
to
then
know
you
about
hear
Jim
it
Jones.
and you're like, "Oh my God." Or like a lot of it'll be like the celebrity, the like not just Scientology. There was the other one, Allison Mack, the NX, I don't know how to say it. But there was like another cult that got exposed, I think 4 or 5 years ago now. Um just insane stuff, because when I heard this, I was like, I thought I heard about this. There was another guy, and it was not this situation. Once I started looking at this case, I was like, oh, that's a different cult leader. But there was someone that it was Jacksonville, I want to say, but he was on the run from somewhere in North Carolina, and two cops pulled him over, and he started shooting at the officers, and then he went on the run and went and hid in a tree at one of his cult members' houses in Jacksonville, Florida, and they ended up like finding him in the yard, however that happened. And I was just thinking, when I was looking at this, I was like, I wonder if it was something nature or earth related when I had heard that story, but it's not the same person. I was like, man, is this going all the way back? This is another one of the guys that was part of this, because this story was like 5 or 6 years old that I'm thinking of. It's just like they go deep, like they really. I guess I don't want to pass judgment, because they always say people that get into a cult don't expect that they're going to enter a cult. They don't realize that they're in a cult until later. So I try not to pass judgment, but at the same time, I'm like, they're giving you 6 squares of toilet paper to use the bathroom? And you don't think that this is not the way to live? Like,
Yeah, and I think when people go into it because they have probably some lacking in their lives, they go into this because, when you talk about going, because I always use the phrase, when you're feeling upset, go outside and put your feet in some grass, get back to nature. But I think a lot of times a lot of people are having such a spiritual appetite. They want something beyond the mundane that they have. And then you have someone who is very charismatic, but he's also a high level manipulator, and they get you out here in guise of spirituality and things like that, and before you know it, it's very subtle, because before you know it, you're so caught up and so deep, and you think everybody else is the problem, when it's actually you all within this whole thing are an issue and a problem. And particularly because I if you go into something like this and you are married and you're with your spouse, and then all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, then after a few years later, you seem to be able to be convinced to separate from your spouse and then make him your spouse. See, those types of things I don't understand. And maybe I'm just too old school
there's
for
a
that.
lot in this case, guy. This seems to cover it all, because some of the exes are coming forward, or not just the exes. So some of the men that were aware of this too before he like shrunk it down to just being him and a bunch of wives. They're doing interviews with some of these other true crime channels. Nick at Night is one of them. I'm going to edit the description to put a link to her channel in this video. That way you guys can go check it out. It looks like Court TV was doing some of the live streams of the trials, but now they only have 2 videos up, and it's jury selection, and then one day where they didn't really do too much. So the best place to watch them, she's great with her commentary anyway, but since some of those streams of the trial days have been pulled, she's got them recorded into her stream, so that's a great place to go and actually watch it if you want to watch it in full. But there's also, if you just search it, there's interviews with all these people, And what really told me enough, and this is crazy to say, was just his sentencing statement. Were you able to see that, Pam? What he said at sentencing?
No, what did he say?
Let's watch it and then you guys can all react in real time and tell me what you think this type of approach to a sentencing, where he's already been found guilty of the R word, of graping, and 4 other charges. This is how he gives his statement, because a defendant is allowed to give a statement of some sort at their own sentencing. This is what he does.
Mr. Bishop, do you want to be heard? Come on up to if you do, come on up to the podium. And we'll swear you in.
Raise your right hand.
Do you swear and attest to the God gives the truth?
For sure. At all times.
All right, what is it you'd like me to consider?
I just want to say something to all of them.
Well,
I just want to say.
Just direct it to me, please, not to.
I'll direct it to you. I'll direct it to you.
Okay.
Are you happy?
Said,
Are you happy?
I'm not answering any questions of yours, Mr.
I forgive you. I forgive you, and I still love you. I forgive you, and I still love you. I got nothing in my heart. I'm not mad at you. I'm not upset with you. I forgive you. I want you to know I still love you and forgive you. And kiss my baby girl and let her know I love her. And I love y'all. I would never, I don't have no, I promise you, you know how I am. In my heart, you know how I am. I still love you. I still love you. I still love you.
All right,
I still,
I got
and
that.
don't hate me.
Okay.
Don't hate.
Is there anything
My
else?
heart light as a feather. I promise you, I love you when I'm still here. I ain't miss one lick. I see what y'all doing, and I want you to know, I forgive you. And I see y'all in the end.
All right, thank you.
I love you.
All right, I just need.
they cut off his mic. He still kept trying to say, I love you. But he's trying to cult the judge.
Right. I see that. Well, he's actually signaling. That's signaling. He's signaling to whoever is still, because whether we want to believe it or not, there are still people within that sphere that still believe and love in him and stuff like that. So he's signaling. He's basically signaling to them.
Like, he said, you know me.
Yeah, he's signaling, and that's what I'm saying. That's what's sad. He's signaling. If you wanna understand how that sounds and look, I don't know. Again, I don't know how old anybody is, but that's the same thing that Charles Manson used to do. He would signal to the people that were still out there about who he was and stuff like that. He was still signaling, talking to them and things like that. So that's similar to that whole situation. That being a very highly manipulative type person. He's signaling to someone who I don't know, but he's signaling to someone in regards to what's going on, because he knew the writing on the wall when he went in there. Because from my understanding, like I said, I don't watch. Like I said, full disclosure, I remember watching some of the videos that he had. And like I said, the ones that I saw where he had those women laying prostrate and telling them that they did not have the right, the authority. He was using those types of words to look up at him, that if they were going to look at him, they had to look at him from a downward position. It was troubling. And I was like, wow, these kind of videos are on. I want to say it was on IG. It was like an IG live or something like that. But because one of the social media outlets that I had followed at that time had made mention of it, and then like we all went to that video, and it was disturbing. It was really, really disturbing to see that. So yeah, he knows the writing on the wall. What's going to be interesting is he going to have this type of effect on people that's going to be in the jailhouse.
Man, I don't know. I mean, I doubt it unless he's going into some place where he already knows people in there. But if he cut men out statistically speaking, he's not going to have remaining allies in there. It seemed like he shrunk down his circle of who he was close to that was male. So unless he's going to a magical co-ed prison.
Well, no. You have to understand, this man right here is bisexual.
Oh, so he'll literally open the door for
Yeah,
alliances.
right. I mean, because when that, from my understanding, now I could be wrong, when he started all of this, that's when it got to the point where he had the men and the women, but there was a point when he started taking some of these men's quote unquote wives. The men started piling up against him and started to, they were starting to plot against him. So he made a move to get rid of the men. And I think that's partly the reasons he went like from Honduras to Costa Rica to someplace else, because, he was shedding off. So those people, they were leaving, because I don't know if you all remember, he was trying to sue Spirit Airlines because Spirit Airlines wouldn't let him on the plane because of their odor. They didn't believe in bathing as regularly as anybody else. And they were telling him that they couldn't get on the plane for this long flight because they stunk. That is what Spirit said. And so they were trying to get IG and all these people behind them because of the fact that Spirit Airline wouldn't let them fly out because they smell bad. And so, it was a whole lot
just
of
not
stuff.
bathing, but you got only 6 squares of toilet paper to use when you use the bathroom.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it was a whole lot. It was a whole lot. And the reason why I remember that is because, the conscious community was very, very big on using him as an example early on until they found out all this other stuff. But they were using him and his teachings as an example on how people should be living and blah, 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 blah. And so it's I don't know. It's a whole lot.
It's crazy because I was like, oh, maybe if I just search his name, I'll find like a great example just to showcase it. And like 5 examples are the top 5 results, and they all look like a good short encapsulation of what you're describing here, Pam. So I'm going to share this one tab here. Let me share my screen again. And this is some interview he did. It was uploaded a year ago. Let me make sure it's not muted. But you can see how he has everyone standing around him.
Yeah. My broadcasting case. How many cell phones? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Look. Don't look at the picture. I hate that picture. I hate that picture.
He said, I hate that picture. Don't put it up. I can slow it down.
Oh, that picture right there? Yeah, that's my baby.
But everybody has to stand and hold their, I guess, their assigned symbols while he presents.
Hey, look at my babies. Look at my babies. I took them to the jungle in Costa Rica. I had them deep in the jungle, my babies. Look at my babies.
He's calling them all my babies.
There go Bella right there, look. There goes my little baby mama, look. This is my babies. These are special women. Special women. Yeah. Bigo, watch out.
And it's just an hour and a half of this.
Pause. Listen to me. Man, my prison balls call me. Keep doing your thing, nigga. Real niggas. They got, boss niggas. They got a lot of, pull. Nation and the niggas that y'all fucking with, y'all fucking with the niggas that had to.
I hope would a year ago have been around the time where people started to kind of veer away from iconifying him, on social media, not his cult members?
I think it was a little bit before then because there was so much stuff coming out. Like I said, he was in this big conflict with the conscious community about, because, they probably about 3 or 4 years ago, and particularly way before, just maybe like 2018, 2019, before the pandemic, they revered him. And then all of a sudden, all of this stuff started to come out about these things are going on or something. And then it just kind of went down from there. You had people who were leaving. You had again, it was a shedding of most of the males because he was surrounded by the men. And the thing of it is, I'm thinking if you can get the men to convert, then the women are more apt to convert, because he used to have like a lot of men around him, and then the women came with the men, and then after a while he shed the men, because again, you had people that came in that were married couples that were following what he was talking about, and then he started shedding the men, and then they started going from country to country to country, and then it was just a whole lot, and then we had what, you know, he was going what he went on trial for. It was like I said, it was a brief time that I remember seeing or anything like that, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. But when the guys started coming out and talking about the stuff that he was doing and how he was treating them and stuff like that, and the weaker mentally and emotionally, the weaker the man, the worse they got it.
Oh, this is crazy. I was looking at some of the comments, and there's some people that are like, oh, he's just reciting movie lines. That's all. He's not channeling anything. But most of the people, whether they're coming back within the last like month or so because of the news of the arrest, or it was a year ago already, they're already being critical of him. So people on social media seem to have caught up to it a little bit, but
Right.
Once you're in the life, physically in the life, takes a lot to get out.
Yeah.
This comment is funny though. It says, "Man, the cheese done slid all the way off his omelet."
Yeah. And what's so sad is he exhibited all of this before. And like I said, anytime, like I said, you give somebody a microphone and they get to pontificating about all the things that they believe they should do, and how the world is supposed to be and all this other stuff. And I don't begrudge anybody to do that, but after a while, it's, I wish that I don't know these people particularly, and I don't remember any types of names, but I really wish there were videos that we could find from the men that left that cult, that left that thing, and
There are
how
a
they were
few
talking.
speaking. There are a few
Yeah.
doing interviews this week. They're starting to do them.
Good. Because
So if you ex-member is probably the keyword if you want to hear from the ex-members, but there's also ex-wives. So
Right.
probably if you do ex-member, you'll come up with the male. You'll be more likely to exclude the female results because that would come up under ex-wife interview or whatever. But it's a lot of content out there, guys. Like, that's a rabbit hole. Really interesting what I've watched so far today. I went down the rabbit hole. I don't see Erica Dixon in here, but she's the one that first mentioned when the verdict came down that he had been found guilty in a comment yesterday. So
because
that's why I started looking at it.
I remember he was trying to fire his lawyer because the judge got COVID, and he was very upset with her getting COVID and being in the room and everything like that. It was a whole lot of stuff going on with that.
COVID is like the number one thing that people do not pay attention to until they have to be in the courtroom. And this is honestly a perfect segue to the last thing on the wheel before we get to Am I the Asshole? Which is no ma'am. So if you guys have any more topics that you want me to do, we don't need to put it on the wheel. We can try to pull it up and do it blind. But let's look at what I'm talking about here with no ma'am. If you guys in the chat have been following the YSL trial, let me know if you saw the no ma'am witness. Because we're going to pull it up. We're going to look at it. I did 2 timestamps, but you could fast forward this whole testimony and not get very much out of it.
Right.
So pull up no ma'am. His name is Adrian Bean. I'm starting in the middle of the testimony, and I'm going to speed it up to 1.5. If it wants to load. It doesn't want us to say no ma'am.
Because 1.75, when we were watching that on that Rust trial.
Oh, go ahead, Pam.
I was saying that 1.5 speed was wild. We were watching that thing so fast.
So someone had commented that you can only tell because it kept showing Hannah Gutierrez Reed's face, and her blinks would be very fast because it's sped up. But judging by the voice,
that's what was making it wild, because she was like blinking and turning her head, and then the lady that was next to her with her nighttime makeup on her face, her eyes were blinking with those lashes. It was just craziness. Go ahead.
That was funny to watch too.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Mr. B, approximately what time of the year was it, or when was it that you first met me on your job? Do you remember?
I just met you this year.
So it's in 2024 that you met me for the first time.
Yes, ma'am.
And did you
This
meet
is the
anyone
only
else
yes,
this
ma'am, we're gonna get.
in the last 2 years besides myself?
I haven't had a chance to talk. I haven't talked to nobody, met anybody, anything. I've been working, minding my business, and just all I've been doing.
Thank you. And do you recognize any persons that are seated at either the table line pointing at here or the table behind us here? Do you recognize either of these four individuals?
No, ma'am.
Looking around the courtroom, do you recognize anyone else anyone inside the courtroom?
No, ma'am.
Do you know a person by the name of Jeffrey Williams?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you know two people by the name of Jeffrey Williams?
So Jeffrey
Do you know a person
Williams,
named
Young
Jeffrey
Thug's
Williams
dad,
that
is also
called
Jeffrey
Young
Williams.
Thug?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you known him?
I don't know him like that. I know him just because of rapper.
I'm sorry. Say
I don't know him like that.
You know him just what?
Musical, through music.
Okay. Is it your testimony that you have no personal knowledge of Jeffrey Williams, known as Young Thug?
My personal dealings with him. I don't know him. Like we don't grow up together. We didn't hang together.
When you say, I don't know him like that, but you know him, would you explain to the jury how you know him?
Music, listening to music.
And have you ever had any,
Heard of his music.
you've only heard of his music, is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. In 2013, did you know Jeffrey Williams Jr.?
I really don't have any knowledge about 2013, ma'am. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand. I don't really have any knowledge about 2013. Once I had went to prison and came home from prison and done my time, everything that happened in 2013 or whatever has been put behind me and set forth. So I've been, working and just doing my thing since I came home from prison. I don't have no
I
knowledge.
think he's
of
wearing
nothing
the
that
mask.
happened 10 years ago.
When did you go to prison?
I think it's around 2015, something like that.
2015?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you went to prison,
And I came home 2017.
the incident that you went to prison for, what year did that incident take place?
I can't recall.
Do you recall the sentence that you got?
I don't remember.
Are you still under that sentence?
I don't remember.
Do you recall getting hit by a car on September 11th of 2013?
So due to the lack of things that I was doing back in the days, I don't really have no knowledge of nothing. I put everything behind me from back then, and I just left everything. I've been kind of blacked out ever since then about everything that went on with me in my life back then.
Okay. And what things are you talking about, Mr. Booth?
I suffered from Molly.
Hear what he just said, guys.
Molly.
He said he suffers from Molly.
I don't know if y'all familiar with that.
You said you suffered from Molly?
Yes, ma'am. I don't know if anybody in the courtroom is familiar with that. But I took a lot of drugs back in the day, and it said maybe a lot of things went wrong with me and my family. So I kind of like, since I straightened my life out after coming home from prison, everything had just been white blank. I ain't remembering nothing that went on back then or nothing that had anything going on with anybody else.
Oh, he had a Molly blackout.
He's still saying he still suffers from Molly and doesn't remember anything. And so far, the only thing he says he remembers, hold on, I'm going to pull up another piece of testimony where it's just getting to what ADA love has to do.
So in
This is
other
coming
words,
from
is he still
2013.
taking Molly? And that's why he suffers from Molly?
So he's saying he's left that life behind, but he's using
No,
his
ma'am.
drug use in the past to say he still doesn't remember anything.
You recall
He doesn't
Molly
remember anything
going
from
on
then or now when
with
he's asked certain questions about now, like recently
No,
when he
ma'am.
spoke with a detective.
the
The only thing he really concedes to is, yeah, I met you this year, ADA love.
only known DK for a few weeks.
So
No, ma'am.
let me switch to this tab here, get the volume going. Sorry.
Do you recall telling the detective that on September 11th, 2013, that was only the second time that you had gotten into the car with DK?
No, ma'am.
Do you recall describing for Detective Quinn on September 16, 2017, the tattoo that DK had on his face?
No, ma'am.
Do you recall telling Detective Quinn?
Now, what she's doing, because they don't have a recorded interview of this, they're going back and looking at a 2013 incident that they're claiming Jeffrey Williams, Young Thug, was a part of as a prior act, where they're referring to it as the laundromat incident. And the detectives that took the stand to testify about that incident all gave different stories. There were 4 people in the car. There were 5 people in the car that we were looking for. And then the dispatcher gets up on the stand right before this witness and is like, well, they play the dispatch, the 911 call recording, because they don't have body cam back then from any of the officers. They just have their statements and then this dispatcher and the 911 call. But on the dispatch, the dispatcher's saying, what's going on? What's going on? There's shots fired. Call the helicopter in. And then another officer is saying that they're looking for a blonde female with a lace front wig. And then it's repeated again. So there's like some female that's involved. They're saying that 5 people were all in one sedan. The defense shows pictures of the sedan. There's stuff in the back seat all over the car. Like, it's not free space in the sedan. Young Thug is 6'3", and they're saying he was sitting behind the seat in the back of the car with at least one other person crammed in there with him in the back seat when all of this is happening. And nobody can put him at the scene. This is all to say that Jeffrey Williams was there while someone else fired a shot at somebody else outside of a laundromat. And this is someone that they're calling as a witness because they're saying 10 years ago, in 2013, he spoke with a detective and gave statements to the detective. And the only way that ADA Love can get this stuff in is by asking, did you say this to the detective? Did you say this to the detective? Did you say this to the detective? So she's essentially getting testimony in, even though there's not really evidence on the record because he's saying no to everything. But the jury still gets to hear all the questions. But this guy holds it down the whole time and just says, nope, don't recall.
And a backwards K on his forehead. Do you recall telling Detective Quinn that?
No, ma'am.
Do you recall Detective Quinn asking you what that's all about, that backward K?
No, ma'am.
And do you recall telling Detective Quinn? I don't know.
No, ma'am.
Do you recall telling Detective Quinn that you were just a family man who had just got home? You were just a family man.
No, ma'am.
Do you recall Detective Quinn asking you about DK and who he was friends with in the car, who he's tight with in the car?
No, ma'am.
Do you recall telling Detective Quinn that DK was tight with Thug, Young Thug?
No, ma'am.
Do you recall telling Detective Quinn that DK and Thug?
Just waiting to say the next no, ma'am.
Yeah, she makes her. Come on.
Oh, I think they take a break for a little bit here. Let me double check.
And Thug is Little Jeff?
No, ma'am.
Do you recall the detective saying, okay, I'll figure it out before we leave?
No, ma'am.
Do you recall telling him it was hard to find?
No, ma'am.
Do you recall the detective asking you whether if you saw a picture of the kid DK again, would you recognize him? Do you recall the detective asking you that?
No, ma'am.
Do you recall the detective telling you that he had with him a picture of a kid named DK with a backwards K in the middle of his forehead? Do you recall the detective telling you that?
No, ma'am.
Do you recall the detective showing you a picture and asking you, is that the DK that got in the car?
Basis.
Effect on the listener.
Oh,
Do you recall the detective asking you, is that the DK that got in your car while showing you a picture of a person?
No, ma'am.
Do you recall?
And this, the whole time he's on the stand, it goes on and on and on with this. And thank you, Drea is like on point with the details with the YSL trial. She's also adding in, but he, Jeffrey Williams, Young Thug, was also supposed to be the big busty woman in the lace front who was the driver, but he was apparently sitting in the back seat. So, and that's the thing, like, it's a lot to follow this trial. It's super long. There's a lot going on. It's a lot of faces to keep track of. And there's so many underlying, like, previous acts where someone was pulled over. One of the co-defendants was pulled over and there was, like, weed and a gun in the car. And then they go through, like, a day's worth of testimony just about that one incident in the past. It's a lot to follow. But when you actually hear the detectives or any of the witnesses try to come forward and tell what they've actually investigated over this last decade that they've been looking at this YSL for gang activity, it's really not much. It's not a solid case. Anything that is evidence that comes forward pokes holes in it. And on top of it, in my opinion, you know, Jeffrey Williams has a lot of money. Brian Steele is a very good attorney. And there are some other very good attorneys that have done some very good lawyering on the defense's side. And so this guy's just funny. He probably doesn't look good for the defense in this one instance. If you aren't following this trial, obviously if you're sitting there as a juror, you're probably thinking like, all right, this guy probably did something 10 years ago, or either just giving information to a detective for some other type of gain and doesn't want to cop to that now. Or maybe he's telling the truth about these details and just not wanting to say them again on the stand because he wants to be out of that life. He doesn't want anyone that's sitting in that courtroom to think he's corroborating anything that the DA is trying to make their case around, whatever the case may be. But most of the moments in this trial aren't even this much of a a win, if you want to call this a win for the state, having this witness just say no ma'am the whole time. Someone saying no ma'am is great for the jury if you're the state, but it's not great for appeals records because it's not technically evidence. You know, it's not really evidence that they can consider on the record unless he's the one saying the words or saying yes, that happened. So, but that trial's a mess. But watching this after watching the Terrence Bradley debacle with the Fani Willis hearings and Terrence Bradley going from, I can't divulge that's attorney-client privilege, to having the meeting with Judge McAfee, and then having to take the stand again, where he's no longer able to lean on the attorney-client privilege benefit. He has to start saying, I don't recall, or I didn't have knowledge of that, or I was speculating. And this guy takes a stand like a day after that and just immediately one-ups Terrence Bradley, at least for the amnesia and the recall. So.
Yeah. I have consciously not followed that YSL trial because some people in that trial or things like that are related to me. So I have consciously not followed any of that mess. Because as soon as
there's so many people. There's so many people. It's like every time you look at the courtroom, there's new faces when they show the court.
And if I put any of that on my channel, I can see my phone blowing up. Well, why you?
Yeah, no, stay away.
Stay away from that. And speaking of Mr. Bradley,
yes, let's talk about Mr. Bradley.
That is, I watched what was it? A little snippet. I think it was the lead attorney, AV to the Seventh Power.
And Nate, was it the 3-panel?
Yes, I watched that 3-panel. I watched a little bit, and I think Nate and the lead attorney said it most. I think he was in a process of trying to talk to Miss Merchant as if they were if he thought that he was
gonna get some.
Yes, and he was saying all of this stuff, not understanding and realizing that what do they call it, the honeypot, not understanding and realizing that she was trying to get this information out of him. And I'm just looking at him like, wow, you got played so royally, and now you can't go back to even if you and Nathan Wade are frat brothers. Who is going to hire Mr. Bradley as an attorney since he's such a Mr. Chatty Patty? Who is going to hire him? Who is going to hire Mr. Bradley? Because you can't trust him. I mean, you can't trust somebody that will sit here and throw you up under a bus for whatever reason, just because I guess he thought he was going to be able to throw a rock and hide his hand and tell this woman all this stuff, and that she was not going to use that information to try to push forward. But I'm just sitting here like, I have my issues with Fani and I have my issues with Mr. Wade, but to have a friend like this, I don't need no enemies. I truly, truly don't. I just truly don't need no enemies like that young man.
And someone came out and said that, now get this. So it came, I forget where I saw the blurb. They pulled up a Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly was the one that had the interview. So the state has a witness that came last minute that was a winery employer, sommelier, that was serving Fani and Nathan while they were on a trip in Napa Valley, and said, hey, they paid $400 cash for this bottle of wine. So it was like one witness that came forward and said, hey, they paid cash for something. Then there's another witness that came forward that at the beginning of closing arguments yesterday, before closing arguments started, one of the defendant's attorneys wanted to introduce, he at least wanted to proffer a new witness that they just discovered. Well, this new witness apparently was someone that called up Megyn Kelly or got in touch with Megyn Kelly to say, hey, this was recently and this is why I'm so shocked, but I was waiting on 3 people at a table, and 2 of them was Terrence Bradley, who has been to my restaurant. I've served him before. And then Chopra, his attorney. And then the third person ended up introducing himself as Nathan. It was Nathan Wade. And now I'm seeing his face on TV. And they apparently had this falling out a long time ago. And I'm just shocked because that's not the case. I don't remember the time frame. But he said it was more recently than they said that they fell out as business partners and he left the firm. They had come into his restaurant and had dinner together. So Nathan is still, we don't know when their friendship really fell apart, but Nathan still thought this guy was all right to be a friend after he stopped working at the firm. He's like, all right, buddy, I'll let you resign instead of dealing with the heat of this. We're still friends. So he had a chance. Something like that, you could have broken off a friendship.
I think that probably has more to do with them being fraternity brothers, that they're giving each other the benefit of the doubt more so than anything else. I think that that's what it has, because like I said,
that's true.
He's probably been seething because Nate, because you all were talking about that suit the other day, and I was tickled. I couldn't even finish. I was finishing work, and I was so tickled. I can't remember if it was Tracker or whoever it was said something really funny in the comments. But I was
the AKA energy for Fani's hairstyle, and
then because I was saying, wow, Fani had her hair looks really good, a little 16-inch bust down with the loose curls. They were really cute. And I just remember somebody saying something about his suit, and then when I was able to, when it panned to where you could actually see the suit, it hit me. Nathan was probably the guy that got all the girls, and Bradley was
and Terrence Bradley was not.
Or he would always get his leftovers, and he probably
grenades, according to Jersey Shore terminology.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet you that Bradley said something about Fani, that he thought that she was good looking or something, and then the next thing he knows, Nathan is with her or something like that. It just gives me that kind of feel. I don't know. I just got so tickled.
But in any case, they were both married men.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, and that's what's funny. So up on my screen right now, I have Ashley Merchant, which is who Terrence Bradley was texting. And next to her is her husband, John Merchant, who is also part of this case. He's an attorney. They have a law firm together. He was the first defense attorney to deliver closing arguments yesterday. Like, when you think of that, when you add that context, and you know that these attorneys are all in social circles and running into each other, did Terrence Bradley just run into Ashley Merchant while her husband wasn't there, or did he also just not care?
Probably.
Because for all we know, it could have been John Merchant holding Ashley's phone and sitting there texting Terrence Bradley the whole time.
Could have been. Could have been.
Oh my gosh.
Look at, I mean, she gives me Anna Nicole Smith.
Yeah, that's why when I searched a picture of them as a couple, I saw this one. That's exactly why I pulled this one up.
Yeah, she gives me Anna Nicole Smith. She gives me that she will use her feminine wiles, and ain't nobody mad at her about that. She will use those feminine wiles to get what she wants. And like I said, he's sitting up here texting, because he was good about getting away with it about attorney-client privilege. But when they put those texts in front of him, you looked at his face, and I just got so tickled. I was like, see, you don't put anything. What text messages are records, people. Yeah, if there's something in there that y'all don't want anybody to know, you call and pick them up on the phone and you talk to them. Or you meet them out in public and you talk to them. See, this mess right here, this is what gets anybody and everybody caught up. But yeah, look, I like her necklace, though. Yeah, and she's got like the 20 to 22-inch side bust down with the loose curls. She's cute.
Yeah, we get the curl terminology. Tracker said thank you for the terminology. And then, yeah, blue, classic tactic, honeypot tactic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's just, can you imagine sitting there feeling dumb? Like, this man takes the stand first thing in closing arguments just to show everybody, yeah, the one you were texting is my wife, dummy. So,
right.
Like, and now you're getting up there and lying. Which isn't that, like, I think a lot of people kind of got the vibe that he was walking back what he said for whatever reason. He was either lying in the first place, or he was throwing someone under the bus. Neither scenario looks good for Terrence Bradley at all.
None.
It could be a gray area for what it could mean, for what the judge will be considering, right? But it does not look good for Terrence Bradley.
He might as well go to South Carolina. He might as well leave, because I just do not. And like I said, and here's just my overall thing about that whole situation. And I'm putting her name as the big person because she's the one that ran for office. And she ran for office on this same issue of her predecessor having outside relationships and things like that. But here's my thing with that. I understand that you tried to get all these other people to come and to try this case. But there should have been a transparency way before then. You should have said something like, hey, we went out to dinner. We did this stuff like this. I'm considering him to be the thing. And pretty much you could have just said he was my last option, because you had other options and those people could have done. But there should have been a level of transparency. You don't there is a YouTuber on here named Funky Dineva. And he always says, you don't let anybody spray you with your own tea. So she should have definitely called in and said something before all of this happened, because it just bothers me, because I
Yeah.
think you had a good case with this Trump case, and it bothers me because all of this side stuff you allowed to go out, because all you had to do is say, hey, we are friends, we have been friends for such and such and such and such time, we've gone on trips, we've done all these little different things. I'm putting his name forth. If that's not cool, let
Right,
somebody
you could have
know.
done it in the moment.
Right, but
Because then there's no going back, or honestly, even because I think some of the big issue is the affidavits that they filed once Ashley Merchant put this motion forward to the court for the disqualification, where the affidavits are saying, hey, no, we didn't start this relationship until March 2022, and then she attached Nathan's affidavit that said that to her own filing. So it was one of those things where even at that point in time, if they were more forthcoming, then there wouldn't be the issue of misleading the tribunal, lying to the court on those affidavits, which this could very well come down to the judge considering, well, there isn't evidence that, cash was being used in a weird way because we just don't have the paper trail to say one way or the other. There's an absence of a paper trail, which I can interpret some way, but it's not really, the paper trail record is not there. But when you have this other stuff stacking up, like one little bit here, one little bit there, those affidavits saying, nope, this all started in March 2022, that's one little bit that kind of adds to the cookie jar in the wrong way. And I was just thinking, like, maybe if they never filed that in those affidavits, they didn't try to claim that at all, they just left that detail out. Or they admitted at that point, yeah, I think at that point they thought no one would come forward and say anything.
Well, they had, like I said, the merchants had Bradley
They already knew.
a bad analogy, but he was already he was one in the clip. They already knew they had him, and he was going to fire and hit certain marks, even though he didn't think he was. He thought he was just going to throw a rock and hide his hand. He was going to tell them all this information so that they can get onto them, and he thought he was going to be in the clear. But I'm so sorry. The biggest loser out of this whole debacle is attorney Bradley, because again, who is going to hire this man for anything? Because you can't trust him to keep none of your stuff.
And you know what? We've barely even mentioned the other giant elephant in the room is the essay that, like, there was two different witnesses. One was a client from the firm, one was an employee of the firm. And like all these other things burn his career, his future to the ground. But then you add in those extra details where he's had these accusations come out against him from two different people. That no one would have really known about, because it was kind of like it was just like a cash settlement. We're severing your employment here, your partnership here is done. Right. But now that's on national television. So, like, just insane. And then Blue, I agree. It could have been a political play for her that went really, really well. I feel like for a rebound, this judge has to move to not disqualify her, and she has to go forward, and she has to win this case if she wants to have a upwards political trajectory for her career. But then, yeah, looking at things like the YSL trial, I mean, the YSL trial is a mess, and I honestly think the jury could come back and find people guilty because, it's a long trial, it's hard to keep track of everything, whatever. So that might be a win.
Because the YSL trial took what, like almost, it looked like it seemed like it took 2 months just to see the jury.
Yeah, and then they're having like jury issues now too, where there's like people getting sick, and I think 2 had to be replaced with alternates already. And there's still months and months and months to go. But it's like trying to have these people keep track of what incident relates to what person, and like, I'm sure that we're going to get some guilties out of this, but anybody watching the actual trial, I can't see someone watching even just one day, any single day of this YSL trial so far, what's crazy about that is this judge has very short days. He takes like 2.5-hour lunches. He comes in late. He wants to leave early. So when I say watching just one day, I mean like 3 hours of actual court activity, if that, because there's been 100 sidebars already. Like, it's just insane. Bad case management. But watching one day, people just from one day will sit there and be able to realize there's issues with investigative work in this district. There's issues with police work in this district. Like, to the point where I think it's even worse to consider what goes on that side of the criminal justice system than to even assume, like, okay, these people may have been driving around with Percocets in their car, and maybe someone did actually commit a violent crime against somebody. But I don't think it amounts, and they're certainly not proving their case, that it amounts to some, long span coordinated gang activity being headed by Jeffrey Williams. And at the same time, you're exposing all these people that aren't collecting evidence from a scene, or they're giving plea deals, or there's a big issue with Fani Willis specifically because she left YSL Mondo out of the indictment, who's the acclaimed founder of YSL, and she was his defense attorney in 2019. Like, there's just weird stuff that just looks really bad for the DA and how they're choosing to prosecute.
Not know that. So
yeah.
So this gives me, how do you know a lot of this information unless you got it from one of your clients? That's interesting. I didn't know that she had represented someone in that particular case. That's interesting.
Yep, he's on a podcast talking about a little bit about like when he was in trial, and I think he got charges dismissed against him. I'm not, or if maybe he went all the way through trial and got a not guilty. But whatever it was, he had a positive outcome for his trial.
Okay.
While she was his attorney. But yeah, where are you getting some of this information from? And why didn't you choose to indict him? Because in the podcast, he is like, I felt like it was a gift from God to not be named in this indictment. Why do you feel like it? Yeah.
Your defense attorney is now the prosecutor. That's the gift. Wow. That's interesting. I'm glad I didn't cover this. I'm glad I keep my nose right on out of this case. That case
it's too much. You would have no time to sleep, Pam.
I kept my nose right on out that case. Yeah, when they arrested, what was his name, Gunna, and all of them for this, I was like, okay.
Too much already.
It was already too much already. And what's the other guy? There was another guy that's in jail now because I think that he was in a rival. It's too much. It's too much. Shut up, Pam.
You might be thinking of, there's YNW Melly, who has a Broward County. He's on a second trial because there was a mistrial for trial 1. And there's a whole bunch of issues with the prosecutor's office, and there's back and forth motions with that all the time. But then there's also YFN Lucci, who took a plea deal out of Fulton County. So that was one of the 4 RICO cases that Fani was putting forward. So the Trump, YSL, and then YFN Lucci, who pled out. And then I don't remember the 4th one.
Yeah. I don't know why y'all go to Fulton. Fulton County has been one of those counties, and I think it's probably in the past 10 to 12 years, that's just one place you don't go to commit a crime because the district attorney's office will grab you. So I'm just curious as to why you all are doing all these things. And Fulton County will put your business out in the street. So it's just one of those counties that if you all are going to, y'all don't commit no crimes in Fulton County, please. Don't commit crimes anywhere. But don't go to Fulton County committing any crimes. And then plus the fact they're one of those, Georgia is one of those states that will allow for you to be on television too. Y'all stop all this.
Yeah,
mess.
Your whole life's going to be up there.
Yeah.
And that's crazy for all these witnesses too that have to go up on this trial. But I did pick some hot takes, and
all right,
am I the assholes from Reddit? I think they're going to be good. So this first one. Am I the asshole for dropping off food for someone I've been dating? I, 32-year-old female, have been seeing someone, 38-year-old male, parentheses, non-exclusively, for almost 4 months. Since we started dating, I've been to his place countless times. I've spent days on end there, spent the night many times, and even was given a key on a few occasions. So given a key on a few occasions, meaning not permanently, while he was out of town and I was watching his dog. Lately, he's been incredibly stressed with work, and we haven't spent as much time together. We both struggle with mental health issues, and I sincerely empathize with his struggles. have held space for him, and consistently offer my support. Knowing he's been focused on work, he works from home, and has been stressing about an upcoming business trip, I wanted to find a way to be supportive while not requiring him to put in any effort or time. I decided it would be nice to surprise him with lunch because I know he struggles to take time to make food when he's so focused on work. So on my day off, I drove into the city we live outside of to pick up something special. It was a dish I had introduced him to that he really enjoyed, and only could be found at this specific place within the city. After picking it up, I sent him a text letting him know I'd be dropping it off as a surprise in half an hour. I got no response, and took this to mean he was focused on work or a meeting. When I arrived to his apartment, I quickly dropped it off on his doorstep and immediately left, sending him a second text to let him know it had been dropped off. To my utter shock and bewilderment, he was upset that I had done this. He stated that while he knows my intentions were good, it felt intrusive, and asked that I not do it again. I understand everyone has the right to privacy and setting boundaries, but his response was shocking to me. It's not like I had knocked on his door or made any attempt to see him. I dropped it off, DoorDash style, and left. I've literally held this man while he cried, shared many intimate and vulnerable moments together, and have even hung out at his apartment while he was out of town, which he had no issue with. So, am I the asshole?
This is going to shock you. Yes, you're the asshole. And the reason why you're the asshole. Go back up to where it says, quote unquote, lately he's been incredibly stressed with work and we haven't spent much time together. We both struggle with mental health issues and I sincerely empathize with his struggles, have held space for him, and consistently offered my support. Baby, let me tell you something. You did that for you. You didn't do that for him.
You don't want that support.
He never did want any of that kind of stuff, babe. You made an assumption and you had a feeling that morning that you wanted to be helpful. And this was the guy who you believed to be helpful, but y'all have not been doing anything for a long period of time. Not a long, because I'm just looking at that second paragraph. He's been incredibly stressed with work and we haven't spent much time together. And that in my woman brain, because it sounds like, oh, maybe a couple of weeks, but I know with my woman brain, that's probably been some months. You hadn't been.
Well, they've only dated 4 months. Yeah. Non-exclusively for 4 months.
Correct. And lately he's been incredibly stressed and we haven't spent much time together. Not much time together to me and my brain calculates that y'all hadn't been, you may have had a non-exclusive thing for 4 months, but I'm quite sure that same amount of period of time, you all have not had anything going on together. You wanted to get back with him for whatever reason you wanted. You thought that this gesture was going to make him endearing to you, and it did not. It backfired.
And it's this whole thing. This whole thing seems like she's trying to convince Reddit to give her answers that will console her.
Exactly.
Validate her.
Exactly.
But from the start, he's given you the key temporarily. And you're aware that he's taken that key back when he was back in town.
All right. And were y'all quote unquote dating? Because if he gave you a key and while walking his dog or anything like that, did he hire you? Are you the hired help?
I saw another take today where someone got mad. It was like this cooking video. I think someone had just had a baby and they were making it was fried rice. It looked like making like jollof rice or something. And they're like, when I make it versus when my help makes rice. And the point of it was they're pouring a lot of cooking oil when it's the help. They're pouring a ton of cooking oil to make it a lot. But when they make it for themselves, they're barely using any oil because they're trying to eat healthy because they just had the baby. And whatever, it was just like a cooking video from another country. And all the comments are people freaking out like, oh, you're using the word help? You're calling your hired help like that? But now I'm thinking of it applied to this, like, all right, this maybe she's hired help and just doesn't like that term.
Right.
Doesn't want to recognize. But I think this is something that I've seen people do. Someone starts to fall back from you.
Right.
And you think, oh, I'm just going to go out of my way to no, if someone's going like this, it's because they want some space. And if they don't want some space right now, it might be a permanent thing, but whatever the case may be, whatever they're thinking right now, and they take some space from you, going like this is not going to help. Smothering them is not going to help. them come to terms and decide, actually, you're right, I do want to suddenly be smothered. And 4 months in, it's probably good for this person to realize that this person might not be giving space. And let's look at how he responded. He stated that while he knows my intentions were good, it felt intrusive and asked that I not do that again. To me, this seems like a really,
That's telling.
proper is not the word, but like a great communication.
Mm-hmm.
He's not like, you stupid dummy, why did you do that? Like, he could have been heated. And he came correctly and said, look, I'm sure your intentions were good, but that feels intrusive to me, and I would appreciate that not being something you do again in the future.
Right.
He could have just said, get the hell up out of here, don't do that shit again.
And listen to her next read that next sentence. I understand everyone has a right to privacy and setting boundaries, but this response was shocking. Do you really? Do you really?
I wonder what the comment said. Maybe he has another girlfriend, is the first comment.
Possibly. She could have been there. And you dropping off food?
Which doesn't, let's remember, they're not exclusive.
Exactly. That was my first thing. Was she there when you dropped it off? Because see, now he's sitting up here like, got to hear all this stuff. Who is this? Why is she dropping you food off?
Did you double book?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's another comment. It says, could he possibly have a wife who travels a lot? He's definitely not married. I know this for sure. He could be seeing someone else who thinks they are exclusive. Not sure why he would lie to them while being open with me about our non-exclusivity, though.
Because he knew he could. I mean, let's just be very, very clear. You were non-exclusive because you went in there wanting to be non-exclusive. You acquiesced to what he saying about being non-exclusive, but in actuality, you wanted to be exclusive. But you acquiesced thinking that, over time he will see how I'm such a good person, and he'd want to be exclusive with me. When he said he was not wanting to be exclusive, when he wanted to be non-exclusive, that is exactly what he meant. But a lot of times, sometimes we think because we like them or the image of who we think they are, we will acquiesce to some of the things that they say, thinking, but in time he will see that I am such a good person and a good catch. He would want to be exclusive with me. You weren't the person he wanted to be exclusive with. And that's why it was intrusive, because I'm of agreement that the woman was in there and you dropped off some food and he didn't know anything about it. I bet you they still ate it, but still, anyway, I'm just saying, sometimes we have to.
You go somewhere and it was like, what if it was like, I'm doing the thing that I like, the restaurant I showed you, and I know that you said you liked, but maybe he could have been telling her, like, I had a good dinner, that was great. It was just like a small talk thing that he said. And
exactly.
She's like, here's me and here I am. So it's obviously possible he could be in like a full-blown dating someone, and she's the side chick, which is why she's being told, hey, we have an open relationship. But I don't know, I still think there's a huge possibility that it would be wise, no matter which scenario is actually the truth, it would be wise to go with this commenter here who just says he's just not that into you. Because he's obviously not choosing you over the other person, if there is another person. And you can't convince yourself that the only reason someone doesn't want you to be able to show up to their house unannounced is because there must be someone else. You should still have the ability to respect boundaries without finding an excuse to justify why someone's setting that boundary for you.
Exactly.
So, but I think you guys, let's see what in the chat here. So Tracker says, I don't think that she's the asshole. She's just a person with hope that she wasn't ghosted. Because she's the one he actually went, and then Tracker's talking about the other girl now. Because the other girl may have been the one he actually wanted to date, not the poster of this Am I the Asshole? And then Amina says, do non-exclusives last 4 months? Normally 2 weeks that I know of. I want to be exclusive. Yeah, and I think that's got to be something, like, I don't know. I mean, maybe if, like, things change in my life, I would consider, like, an exclusive thing. But I don't know. I like to, like, date and then be in a relationship and not have this long, extended, uncertain period. And if someone else doesn't want to do that, then I'm not going to approach that person. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's kind of like both people have to be on the same page. So For you, Amina, you've got to find someone that is on your 2-week timeline there. But I'm sure there are people that just date non-exclusively for over 4-month periods, and it works for them. And then, let's see. So,
Or he could have been broken up with the other girl and for those 4 months and then got back together with her.
true. That happens. So, that happens. He could have been like, dang, I'm dating this new girl and I miss the old one. She's making me miss the old one. So, Live Live, the case of Michelle Troconis, oh my god, I need to learn how to say people's names, was found guilty in the death of Jennifer Dulos this week. So I didn't actually watch that case. Did you follow that case at all, Pam?
I don't even know who those two people are. What happened to Jennifer Dulos? How did she?
She went missing, and they found Michelle Troconis to be the cause. They found her guilty of what they ultimately ruled Jennifer Dulos dead, deceased, gone.
Were they friends or something? I mean, what was?
I don't know. I gotta watch it because I don't even know the background.
Okay,
but it was a major trial. It was like one of the major ones. People were doing like the verdict watch for it and stuff.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't. That I don't know who that. I don't know who those people are.
I think Court TV or Law and Crime have the full streams of all the court days.
Okay. I'll go get the highlights.
Jokes with Junior says boundaries. Yep. And that's the thing, right? I think the boundaries is something that this poster has to respect, whether she's being sidelined because there's another person there or there's no other person at all. Like, you have to respect the boundary either way.
And she probably thought, oh, I remembered the food that you like, and the gesture is that I'm going to get that food that you like. I remembered what you said, and now you don't want. Now I'm not good enough to want. But y'all ain't been together. I mean, lately he has been incredibly stressed at work. That's what he told you.
So within 4 months, he's already spacing back from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Erica did give a summary of the Troconis. I don't know if that's the way to say it, but she said, your lover kills his soon-to-be ex-wife, gets you to help cover it up, and when he gets charged, he prunes himself, quotes, leaving you to go to prison for helping.
Oh, that is...
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Oh my... Oops. I gotta go see this now.
Yeah. We're gonna do let's do a rewatch party. Well, that might be a stream of its own. But what's great about not doing it live is when someone's slow. When someone on the stand is speaking slowly, you can speed it up and you can skip all the lunch breaks and the sidebars and make what could be like 6 hours a day really take 3. So, yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot. And left you holding the back, child. See, you know, I keep telling y'all better stop all of this. Being a ride or die chick is not in your best interest. Because look at you now. You in jail. Fooling around with somebody, and you know. Wow. Ooh, what's the next one? What's the next one, Kat?
This one is actually related. I did it in this order for a reason. Let me make sure. All right. So now we're speaking about communication and boundaries and taking distance, falling back from someone. This guy is asking, would I be the asshole for straight up leaving and ghosting my fiance after I found out she cheated? Advice needed. This is a throwaway account, as I do not want this story to be associated with my main Reddit account. I, 28-year-old male, have found out that my fiance, 30-year-old female of 2 years, cheated on me. We have been together for 6 years and in love with each other. At least that's how it was for me. She's been acting more distant and became more protective of her phone for the last 2 months. At first, I was not suspicious of anything, but the doubt grew more and more inside me as the time passed, especially after asking her if there was a problem since she felt distant. She said there is no problem, and that was it. I gave in and snooped on her phone to discover she's been sexting a guy for the last 2 months. I was devastated. At the beginning of our relationship, I clearly told her lying and cheating in any form are the 2 unforgivable actions for me. Yet, she decided to cheat on me after 5 years of relationship, and we had been planning the wedding for this summer. I am not proud of that, but I checked the old messages as well, but there was no case of cheating other than this. I have been thinking about it for the last few days. I tried to rationalize it and told myself I cannot be leaving a 6-year relationship because of a single mistake. But after having a long talk with my oldest sister, I realized that I should respect myself and leave. She was the one who betrayed the relationship, not me. We do not have any shared assets, and lease is on my fiance's name. I have an inherited house, but it's in another city. Tomorrow, I'm planning to just get important things from the house, block her from everywhere, and just leave. I do not want closure, to be honest. I just want to grieve the relationship. I thought maybe I did not love her given that I want to leave her right away, but it's not like that. It hurts a lot. I tend to stress eat, masturbate, doom scroll, and spiral into depression in these kinds of situations. I have that experience from my early 20s. By going no contact and returning back to the city where my family lives will give me a circle that can support me. Would I be the asshole if I straight up left and ghosted her without saying anything? I'm going to highlight this here because I think he needs the distance because makeup sex would make him stay.
Who does he
So he's-
sound like?
Honestly, I know you might be going for a JM initial maybe, but I think this is a lot. I think this is a thing. I don't think this is unique. I laughed when I saw it because I didn't expect it to be the next thing he said after I tend to stress eat. So he's saying he stress masturbates. But I think it's like a real thing, and he's having the foresight here to say, hey, something isn't right. Oh God, I checked this phone. I found something. I've talked to my sister about it. I have another place I can go to that's a clean living situation for me. I could get up and go. Should I talk to her? And then as soon as he had the thought about talking to her, he might have pictured ahead of time how that could go. Well, we'll end up just going right back into each other's arms and having this kind of physical reconciliation that puts the emotional stuff unnecessarily behind us.
With no drawers on.
Yeah. So no, I feel like you're always going to feel, personally, I feel like this guy's going to feel like the asshole for doing it, even if it is the best solution to end the relationship, if that's what he's set on doing.
Yeah. I think if he's got an escape plan, then, if what's going on is not needed, like I said, you be who you are authentically, and you have non-negotiables. If this is a non-negotiable, regardless of how it happened, then I think that if he has an escape plan, do the escape plan. The only thing that I would say is, since you have all of this, the other thing I would do is maybe change my number. But prior to me changing my number, I will text her and say, look, I'm gone because I know that you have cheated on me, and that's it. We're not going to discuss it. You know what you've done. And then that's it. I don't have an issue with this because, like I said, people need to do the things you need to do to be able to protect yourself and protect your feelings. The only thing that I would do is I would let you know why I'm gone. I'm gone because of this. There's no discussion on it. You know you've done this, blah, 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 and just leave it at that and go on about my business. I don't have an issue. I don't have an issue with this. Yeah, because, he knows her enough to know that she'll be sitting in the closet with no drawers on.
Tracker said to say, I'm sorry, I can't. It is definitely you. That's the breakup message. But I agree. Like, the whole chat is, he's young, he'll rebound. Don't stay. Tracker says, leave a post-it note. I guess that's the only issue is, like, maybe, if it's her apartment, but they were splitting rent or something like that, would it put her in a situation where she could be asked out if she doesn't know in the next, like, maybe give your last, if you're paying half the rent to be there, do the appropriate 45 days, act like a tenant, right? You're living there. Give your half of the rent for what would be due if you had to give your 30 or 45 days notice, whatever state you live in. Get a clean slate. Don't let anybody
exactly
do it as much to help them as it is also like the right thing to do by the books. Like, and then go.
I mean, that would be noble. I don't have an issue. I don't have an issue with that as well. But like I said, I think if that's going to be able to protect yourself, and you know that you're not going to cave when you see them in the closet with their drawers off, then that's fine.
QT1's laughing at the no drawers in the closet part.
Yeah. If that's how that's going to help you, I don't have an issue with that.
Oh, someone says leave her unblocked, and then when you roll out the first time she tries to contact you, send her a picture of her cheating. They're choosing violence in the comments.
Yeah, that soothes my petty, because my petty is strong. That message right there soothes my petty, because that's a good petty response.
Pam, I forgot they have a whole wedding scheduled, so they're asking like, well, how do I tell everyone that's invited to the wedding?
You just tell all your people that the wedding is off. You don't even have to go into detail.
I think when you say, like, if someone told me that, I'd be like, oh, someone cheated.
Yeah, just say the wedding is off. And like I said, you don't even owe those people, some people think that you owe them an explanation, but you don't even owe those people an explanation. You just basically say, hey, listen, the wedding is off.
Yeah.
You can infer to that whatever you want, but I'm moving on and she's moving on. And like I said, if that's healthy for him, because like I said, and I'm going to keep repeating it till I can't repeat it anymore. You don't have to worry about somebody in your sweatsuit with no drawers on.
Dear prospective wedding guests, the fear of upcoming commitment is clearly scaring at least one of us. So we regret to inform you, your patronage is no longer needed at our wedding.
Right.
It's canceled. But yeah, I don't think they'd be an asshole for ghosting. But yeah, the wedding part kind of sucks. But don't stay in a relationship just because the wedding's already booked. That's such a dumb reason.
Yeah. She already. I don't have high tolerance for that, because it's just as easy. If you are not happy in a relationship, then leave. If you've got to cheat on somebody, you're not happy in that relationship, just leave them folks alone. Or be like the last letter. Be non-exclusive. Be non-exclusive, but don't sit here and try to get a wedding and all this other stuff when you know that you're not happy in that relationship. That is one of the reasons why you have an engagement. Yeah,
it's like she's cheating, right?
Yeah.
She didn't cheat until the wedding's approaching, and then she's like, oh god, panic cheating maybe. I mean, maybe that's not what led her to do it, but that's like a thing that happens to people. They like panic about a future commitment, and then instead of just addressing the commitment issue,
exactly,
they go and like do their own thing in their own bubble.
Thinking they're not gonna get caught, thinking that it's that person loves you so much that they're gonna let you slide with it. But no, because if I can't trust you to be faithful to me, what else can I can't trust you. And maybe I'm just that person that thinks like this. If I can't trust you with you're saying that you and I are committed and that we're going to be together and we're not going to be with anybody else. You can't trust yourself with your body. How can I trust commingling bodies, commingling money, commingling anything with you? Because you can't even make that type of commitment, and it's just as easy. It's just easy. Because I can't trust anybody that tell me, oh, well, I can't control myself. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. We all can. We just choose not to do it.
I think I've got a good trust issue. Am I the asshole? To follow you up on that.
Okay.
Are you ready? It's a short one.
Good. I'm ready.
Am I being unreasonable, wanting nothing left on the stovetop? My partner has refused to keep the stovetop clear for years. At one point, he even put, of course it's he, sorry guys, he even put a piece of plastic on a still hot burner, and the plastic started to melt. He thinks I'm being overly anxious, and our couples therapist said that I need to pick my battles. However, I was always under the impression that this is a fire hazard, and I don't understand why it's super difficult to make a habit of not leaving things on the stove, even if it has been verified to not be hot at the time. We also have a small child at home, which makes me more prone to anxiety about safety. Am I being unreasonable in asking that he stops doing this?
So, as my petty is set up, because sometimes there's an old saying, some folks do not believe that fat meat is greasy. And my petty is set up is he keep leaving stuff on the stove and he don't think that stuff is going to catch fire. And I see that he's left a paper towel or something on there that's going to catch fire. Well, that daggone house is about to blow up.
Have
and
you ever
or
had to
get them catch
scrape
on
plastic
fire.
off a glass top?
Yeah. And here's
It's
the
not
thing:
fun.
when I see it, I'm grabbing my baby, I'm grabbing my purse, and I'm walking out the door, and I'm leaving your butt in there to burn up because fat meat is greasy. I'm sorry. She's not the asshole. This is a fire hazard. And plus the fact, if you're not cooking and if you're not doing any of those things in there, he would be banned from my kitchen because, like I said, this is a fire habit. This is crazy. And for a therapist to tell you to choose your battles when you know that this particular battle can get all of you all killed.
That's what's interesting is the therapist, the marriage therapist. Okay, guys, imagine you are the marriage therapist, you are the counselor, and you're sitting here and you're watching this person and their husband. You know, sometimes those things just devolve into arguing back and forth, and then the therapist may not get control over the room. But this is the issue that's happening in this couples therapy. He keeps putting stuff on the stovetop. I think that's a safety hazard. He doesn't listen to me. He's probably saying something to the effect of, it's not a big deal. It's like, it was like one time that it was hot and something melted and she never lets it go. Like, that's probably what's happening in this couples therapy room. But
I'm
at the
sorry.
same time, if you're too lazy to take something and put it where it goes, and you have to put it right here on something where it's a dangerous place to leave it, there's probably like other habits that could be annoying or unsafe or careless.
Especially when I'm starting to get a grasp of weaponized incompetence, because that's a new phrase and terminology that I'm getting a grasp of. But this to me, no, I don't think that this person is exactly, Eliza. Stovetop today, toilet seat tomorrow. I just don't. This is a hazard, and he's minimizing it like it's not anything. And this also tells me he grew up in a home that people didn't cook, because there's no way in the world that you do not know that you do not put a piece of plastic on a stove knowing that it burns. That tells me that where you lived at, that stove never was turned on enough for that to matter. But that's neither here nor there. But the whole point of the matter is, it's one thing to not take your safety as a big deal. You have a small child at home, and I don't care what anybody says, children watch what you do. So
they'll end up putting something up on the stove.
Exactly.
They'll try, oh, here's my train, my toy train, my plastic train.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the thing too. So Tracker's pointing out my brother's kitchen stove knob is like the way it's positioned when you're walking in the kitchen, it like sticks out so far for whatever reason, and it turns so easily, and it's a gas stove, so when it's turning and it's not igniting, it's just letting gas leak. Yeah, so Tracker's pointing out somehow I tend to nudge the knobs on my stove and turn the damn thing on without even noticing until it starts glowing red. So that's another thing too, right? It's not just about, oh, I know when I use the stove, I turn it on and off. There could be a reasonable accident where the stove could be turned on accident without you consciously knowing you're using the heat. So,
right. And back in the day when things like that used to happen, I don't know if anybody had like house phones or anything like that, but when there would be gas like that seeping out like that, and you pick up the phone to answer it, the whole place goes kablooey. And so these are hazards that when I was younger,
kablooey.
Kablooey.
That sounds like the safe cartoon explosion.
Exactly. That's what I was trying, because I don't want your page to get shut down. So it went kablooey. But those are the things, and those are the things that you were taught when. That's why I was saying he lived in a household that probably they didn't cook a whole lot, because that is stuff that you're taught. You don't play over the stove. And you remember I used the term fat meat is greasy. My mother used to say that you're gonna mess around and you're gonna do something where I'm trying to keep you from finding out that this thing is hazardous. And you're gonna continue to do it, and then you're gonna
you will learn.
You will learn that fat meat is greasy. I've told you that. There's no need for you to have to try to figure it out. And so, like I said, no, I don't think that this person, she's not overly anxious. She has children in her house. And when you have children in your house, you have to be extra careful because of the fact that if they see you doing something, even though it doesn't seem like a big thing, they're going to want to do it. This is why you cover the outlets, because kids will see you take a legitimate thing that you plug in the outlet, something is going to turn on. And so they're going to stick something
Oh,
in
I
there
want to
because
know how to turn the TV on and
exactly, and they're going to stick something in there, not because being, but that you have to try to keep some hazards now. And then it's like, oh, you're just being to minimize or to minimize her concerns about that, or his concerns, whoever's writing this letter, to minimize those concerns is bothersome to me. And like I said, you can put a piece, you can mess around and you can put a dish towel or something up there. And then a lot of people don't know the appropriate ways to take out fires depending on what's on fire. Oh, it's a mess. You don't,
I
you're
burnt a
not,
tile when I was a kid.
yeah, you're not supposed to try to put out a grease fire with water, but people will
So I
try.
started a grease fire when I was like 10 years old. I've been cooking for a very long time, but I let grease get too hot. And we had, the way the stove was, it like pulled out and the ovens were above it. And on the sides, my mom had these like dried paper wicker decorations. And the pan is like engulfed in flames with that stuff right there. And my head, I knew enough that grease and water, no good. Can't just put it in the sink. So I just took it off the stove and put it on a big open empty spot on the floor. So it ended up leaving a nice black mark on the tile on the floor. But paper mache objects that hung around the stove for whatever reason did not catch fire and go up in flames against the wooden cabinets. So needless to say, my mom got rid of those paper mache. She might have moved them somewhere else, but they were no longer hung right next to the stove. So there's that. But yeah, not everybody, I didn't know how to put it out. And to get to the lids, I would have had to go like under where the fire was because the cabinets were under the pull-out stove.
Right.
So my brain was just like, tile floor sounds less flammable than anything else around me. So that's where a 10-year-old cat is putting this.
Right.
So, but yeah, like.
Yeah. Look, Erica, I see it where it says, I watched my 25 sons stare at a burning pot. I figured stick, but was furious and shocked him. You'll be surprised that fire, people underestimate fire and people underestimate water. And I'm the person that underestimated water because I never ever forget driving. We had a very, very big rainstorm. And I saw people driving through the water and thinking, oh, well, I could do that now. Let me preface by the fact that the people who were driving through the water, they were in like SUVs and high up cars. And so they rode through the water in the jet. So I had my Ford Escort thinking that I was going to ride through that water. And baby, my car went through. The water came up in the car past the gas pedal, and everything in the car cut off, and my car started just spinning. And when you go outside, it was probably maybe like a foot or two of water, but my car was spinning and spinning and spinning. And the only thing that stopped my car from spinning is when I hit the curb and then got out of the car. And like I said, I'm standing in like a foot, maybe a foot and a half of water. So I don't underestimate water. I don't under or overestimate water and fire. Child, I don't even play.
There was that I think it was last year when there was like the flooding in Miami, and it was like on a Saturday night, so everyone was out clubbing, and like the girls are like running into the street twerking in their club outfits, and one of them gets like swept away, and some guy has to go and grab her ass up out of the flooding street water, and it's like you can't just play in that like that. Plus,
Water
it's just nasty too, you know. Like that's obviously you're in a car, but they're like out on the street. They're like barefoot. Like you don't know what's in that water once it starts running, and it's just. And I have one more. Am I the asshole? And we're coming up on the hour mark. I think this is a good one. So, am I the asshole for taking 3 days a month for myself just to do nothing? I live with my girlfriend and recently got a promotion at work alongside exams that I have to complete from work. I've started noticing I'm getting tired a lot more often and drained a lot more since my workload is increasing. I decided I have to have 3 days to myself, just to relax and recharge each month so I don't get burned out. With these days, I would just stay at home, catch up on Netflix, play some video games, read, etc. I won't even leave the apartment if I can help it. These days will be on weekends, so I will not be using annual leave for them. I mentioned this to my girlfriend, and her response was just, what about if we wanted to make plans? What about if there was something happening that we wanted to attend? I just reiterated that I needed the time to myself. I pointed out if we have plans made in advance, then I won't choose those days, but that I'll take 3 days each month just for myself. She asked what she was supposed to do when I had my day to myself, and I just told her I'm sure she can think of something, and that she could go see family or friends or have the day to herself. I pointed out I wasn't kicking her out. I would just be doing things to relax all day so she's free to do whatever she wants. She just repeated that I was being unfair by having a day where I refused to do anything without any concern for her, despite her living with me. I just see it as me needing a day to recharge each month, and if my girlfriend asked for the same, then I would understand. Am I the asshole for taking 3 days a month to do nothing? Now, it seems like his last paragraph, he's only asking for 1 day by this point. By the time he gets done writing this, he's down to just asking for a single day.
I'm so sorry. Like I said, like I said, I'm sorry. Who does that remind you? Do not set your schedule around my schedule.
There's a lot of graces in this world. There's a lot.
Oh, goodness, I'm so sorry. No.
Well, okay, a normal month has 4 weekends. There could technically be like 5 when the weekend days fall on the first day of the month. But that's 8 weekend days minimum a month, right? So if he only wants 3, she still has half of his weekend, more than half of his weekends.
I just don't. Everyone needs a time to decompress. And I'm sorry, sometimes we need the opportunity to decompress from our person that we are in a relationship. But that doesn't sound like that's what he's saying. He's just saying he just wants to veg out. I do that all the time.
Yes.
I just want to veg out. I would absolutely love. I veg out. The way I do it is I cut my phone off. Or I'll tell you, or you all will see things. Hey, you all will not see me for 3 or 4 days. Have fun. Do what you got to do. I think I did this before. I'm not going to get on here and post anything until Friday. I do that in my personal life. You will not see me. I will tell you real quick. Hey, I'm off commission. Don't call me. If it's an emergency, you can leave a message and I'll read your message. I said, but don't call me. Don't come over because I'm not entertaining you. I don't see a problem with that, particularly if you know that you get.
Don't bring the meal you think I like to my door and drop it off.
Exactly.
Don't do it.
Exactly. I'm not going to bed right now. But I'm just serious. I think everyone deserves an opportunity to, and for me, I consider that to be self-care, because sometimes you don't need to be thinking about a whole bunch of stuff all the time.
Burnout's real. He explicitly mentions burnout, and that's another, like, people don't know about water flowing down the street and that you shouldn't drive through it. People don't know that burnout's really a real thing too. Yeah. It's once you have burnout, you don't just relax for 1 day and then you're not burnt out anymore. It's like a thing you have to get out of.
And you know what, live. Here's the thing, and this is that thing that I keep talking about. If we live our lives as being as authentic as we can, women are socialized to always be of service to somebody. This is how we are socialized, regardless if your mother is a redhead flaming feminist or whatever. You're always socialized to be of service to somebody. And when you're not being of service to somebody, people don't know what to do with themselves. A lot of women don't know what to do with themselves. She asked, what was she supposed to do when I had a day to myself? And I just told her, I'm sure she can think of something to do. She's not going to think too much of anything to do. Again, she's been socialized to believe that she's supposed to be of service. She's supposed to be doing something with her man. She's been socialized to be married and be a wife and do all of these things. So she doesn't understand or know anything like that. And I've gone back to this about, lady, you love someone who is adventurous and in these, I don't want to say dangerous, but very, very adventurous jobs and stuff like that. You hear a lot of women gravitate to police officers and firemen and all of these different things because, they're giving this air of being heroes and all this other stuff. And then you get upset and get mad when they go to these same jobs. Well, you're putting yourself in danger. Why don't you take that promotion so that you won't have to be anything? But you married a firefighter. You married a police officer. You married a man in the military. These are the things that you know that they're going to do. You love the fact that they're in these positions because we have been socialized to believe that this is the height of manhood. But then we don't want them to do these same things that they're wanting to do. And if they're getting burnt out from doing these things, then we questioning, what am I going to do if you're just doing that? I need to be doing something. I need to be doing something. So no, I don't think that this person is the a-hole. I just think that it is very important, ladies and gentlemen, regardless of how you feel on this spectrum, that when you couple, you act and you work as a couple because you are a couple and you're working towards doing something that takes the two of you. But don't forget who you are. Allow this man to veg out, put his hand down his pants, watch some football, watch some Netflix, watch some sports or something like that. Play some video games, because there's a lot of women I know in my particular age group that find it appalling that you younger people are married to people who play video games. That is so childish. Let them people. He at home playing video games. It's not like
millions doing it.
And you sure can. You better open a Twitch account real quick and play those video games and get paid for it. But instead of you fussing at it, you better get your husband a Twitch account if he could play those video games and you can make a whole bunch of money off of it, like she said. But just no, he's not. She just needs to find something to do. Go out with your girlfriend. He's at home vegging out. Go out with your girlfriends. Go see your mama. Go see your sister. Something. You can do something. It's only 3 days a week. 3 days a month.
And don't go out and cheat just because you're man.
Right. Don't be carrying on no affair in your phone and then, 2 months later he finds it and all this other stuff. No. That's the perfect time. He doesn't like to shop. You like to shop. Baby, give me $100. I'm going. You can sit up here and veg out. I'm going to go to the mall or something. Whatever it is you like to do. I don't know.
I'm with Eliza. She says throw on the Super Nintendo and complete Mario World.
Yeah.
24-minute speed run, baby. Then I need to find more things to do because it only takes 24 minutes.
Yeah. And here's the thing, and whether you understand it or not, he's going to be in such a better mood to do and do all those things that you want to ask. All that stuff on your honey-do list is going to get fixed next weekend.
They say absence makes the heart fonder.
Well, he's right there. He hasn't gone anywhere. He just wants to relax and not think about anything. So he's not gone anywhere. I'm just telling you, you let him relax. Like I said, let him relax, put his hand down his pants, let him watch some Netflix, let him watch the film. That next weekend, your whole honey-do list is going to be completed because he's already had an opportunity to relax.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Especially, it's not indicated here if he, goes to work or works from home. But, sometimes if you're working from home, there's that feeling like you're here all the time and you don't pay any attention to me. Well, I'm not really here. I, block off while I'm working as I'm at work, even if I'm literally working from home. But COVID changed things for a lot of people. Wasn't the divorce rate going up because of COVID? Because people had to spend more time with each other, stuck at home in isolation.
Exactly.
And they're like, "Oh God, I can't do it. I can't do it."
Because you know what? Then that told me that a lot of people were coupled together, and they really didn't like each other. You know what I'm saying? You may be in love with this person, but you really don't like them, and that's what that showed me. That you really didn't like the person that you were coupled up with, because see, now you got to sit down because with the way society is and everybody's working 8 hours and then people are coming home and working an extra 2 or 3 hours. You're so tired, you go to bed and you do this thing over and over and over again. What the pandemic did is it made everybody stop. And when you stopped, you started to realize, you know what? I really don't like you. I just really don't like you. I don't even know what's going on. I was in love with the
irritated and I need my 3 days.
Yeah, I don't know. And then you had all those people that were out here doing all of these things. You start realize for some people, because I have a friend that she realized how ignorant and a big child of a man that she married, because here they are with 3 small kids, one child with an asthma problem, and he was going out amongst people and not doing the necessary precautions. He's coming home and he has COVID, and he has infected everybody, and the baby that has the asthma was affected more. And she was like, you keep going around these people and you keep making your children sick, and you don't seem to think that that's a big issue and a big deal. And it was just like, he just got it exacerbated and exacerbated. And then she, like I said, they ended up leaving. And he's like, well, I don't understand why you do that. How do you not understand that you're going around these people and y'all are not masking up? You've got a child at home. You are more concerned with what those people out in the world are saying than you're worried about the fact that your child has been sick and has had COVID twice. And here they are in the hospital, because that was during the time when they didn't even if you were a parent, they didn't let you in the hospital. So you've got a child that's in the hospital with COVID. You can't get to the hospital and stay with your COVID-ridden child. They've changed it after a while. And you see what I'm saying? All of this kind of stuff. You don't know who's taking care of your child, but you're still running around with these people picking up COVID, and they don't care. I don't know. It's just I don't think so. I think that she needs to find something to do. I think he needs to go ahead and veg out. And I think the thing that he probably has to do is that he probably has to veg out someplace else if she's going to be acting like this.
Or like, I think Tracker said, where was it? Tracker said something about locking the door and going in another room.
Right. And ladies, FYI, it is good for you to have a man cave for your man at the house. It's FYI, that's good. That he can go in there and he can veg out, and has nothing to do that he doesn't love you or anything. He can decompress, and he doesn't have to do that. And just like FYI, it's good for you to have your place where you can decompress, and then have your kids' place with have them have their room where they can decompress. Everybody can go decompress between 3 and 8 on Saturday. Everybody's decompressing in their room where you don't have to be around each other. It's a healthier thing to do. Just FYI.
I think this couple needs you as their therapist, the stovetop couple. But there's that. I think those are some. See, look, you guys just all got some amazing wisdom and life advice from Pam. Even the petty Pam advice was wise. So
I'm telling you, I'd put that thing on that stove and walk out with my purse and my baby, and we would just
gone.
I'll take the insurance policies too, just so I know what I'm supposed to be doing and what I'm gonna get. Because he can sit up there and burn up if he wants to, because that's just craziness to me.
It reminds me of the game The Sims. Let's call it there. Pam, are you doing any streams this weekend, or when is your next stream that you plan on doing?
No, I'm not doing any live streams this weekend.
She's gonna veg out this weekend.
Exactly. This is a good veg out weekend. I'll probably I'm thinking about doing Friday streams because that's going into the weekend, and usually I don't work on the weekends, and so that way I can do that. Or if I'll probably do a Saturday mid-morning stream. So I haven't figured all that out, because I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with because I have members, thank to you, Kat, and I have members, so I want to be able to do members only type streams and things like that. So I'm trying to that's part of my veg out thing, because when I veg out, I think better. So I'm trying to figure that. So I'm not, unless something comes up that I just have to talk about, I'm not doing any streams this weekend, but I will be making content, because I like to make most of my content on the weekends and then spread it out through the week. So that's that's probably what I'm going to be doing.
Sweet. Well, you heard it here. If you are not subscribed to Pam, make sure you are. I'll share her videos when she goes live next, and probably drop a few memberships in there for her so people can get in there if they're not currently a member. But to wrap it up, I'm sure someone will be doing a stream. YouTube will put it in front of you. I will be vegging out tomorrow, maybe watching one of those other trials you guys mentioned in here that I'm not familiar with. And then, if anything interesting comes up this week, we can go live and cover it. But as far as I know, Jonathan Majors has a month out. Fani Willis, we got 2 weeks on that, unless they decide they want one of those witnesses to get on the record. Who knows? YSL's a mess. I'm not going to stream that, guys. But I'm going to be watching it on my own. But with that being said, whenever we have something interesting to talk about, you guys can always leave a comment and we can
I'm gonna
figure it
be
out from
watching
there.
that. I am watching this Rust case. This Miss Gutierrez. I'm watching. I'm going back to watch some of that because I was looking at. I looked at going back to what happened and stuff like that. I find it just
It's a lesson. That's another thing. You're talking about kids being curious with the stove. And in those clips, they hand the kid, the like 10-year-old, 11-year-old kid, they hand him the rifle.
right.
What's a kid gonna do when you put a gun in there? Like, maybe
He's
he
gonna
is
shoot it.
trick-or-trained. Maybe he's trained, right? But he's gonna think it's cool. He's gonna think it's a movie set. The kid has no reason to believe that this is a live round if he's been told this is just a movie.
Right.
Like,
That was that. I've been looking at that, and I'm just probably going to do just a video on this is a great example, and I'm going to use. I think I'm using the word appropriately. This is a great example of a clusterfuck.
You can't unfuck a clusterfuck either.
Yeah,
So.
it's so many systems that broke down. You know, there's so many systems that broke down on this set that it just it was ripe for this type of thing to happen. I hate it for that woman. I hate it to do your job and then someone shoot, whether they intentionally or didn't, and you get shot, and everything is broken down. Because I was watching the testimony from the EMT, and because she has her own little lawsuit, but I was just listening to her and I was like, oh, how lax everybody seemed to be on this set. It just seemed that there was such a lack. Everyone was lax. Everybody was just like, oh, it's not that thing. Everybody was worried about COVID, but nobody else was worried about any other types of things. Because I'm like, if a gun is going off and I know that, and how is it that one person knows that there's 2 shots that have happened and they were live rounds and no one else knows that? The director is not paying that much attention. I'm going back, so I will be doing a video on that.
It's a lot.
I'm just going to do an overall video on my thoughts on that, because that's a lesson to learn, that if you're going to be an employee or an employer, you really have to pay attention to these types of things, and there should be protocols, because there's no way in the world, because everyone was skating over it, but there's no way in the world that she should have been a props person and the armorer. It should have been either or. And the lady who was over the props seems like she was lazy anyway, and she was trying to get that girl to do those things. But anyway, that's just my personal thing. But if she was supposed to be the armorer, then she should have been just being the armorer, because it tells me that
you've got a beautiful young, like, was she a mom? Was Helena Hutchins a mom? Like, the jury is going to be in a position where they want to bring justice to the person that they know died.
Right.
And they're putting Hannah Gutierrez Reed on the stand, and it's one of those things where, yes, technically, if Hannah Gutierrez Reed saw these things and stopped them, this could have been prevented. But at the same time, is she the only one culpable? Because the state is seeming to think so if they're charging Alec Baldwin because he's the one that actually fired the gun. Right. But they didn't bring charges against anybody else. So
there were so many steps, because there was just so many. As I was listening to them, I was like, no, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, it does make sense in the fact that she was the person that was in charge of the bullets and the dummies and all of these little different things and stuff like that. I don't have any issue, because I think everybody had a fault. But to pin it all on her is like, no. Because
luckily for her, involuntary manslaughter, she's actually in a pretty generous state. I think the minimum is 18 months. I'm in Florida. If that happened here, you are looking at 20 years minimum for the same thing that Hannah Gutierrez Reed is facing. So,
I saw a little bit. I'm going to go back to
that's what Alec Baldwin's facing.
Yeah.
The charge.
I'm gonna go back to the prop manager, because she was giving me I can't do anything by myself. I need help. I always need help. And I think that you need
Gracie vibes.
Yeah, I need help. And I was like, this don't seem, like I said, it was still Gutierrez's job to make sure that the right loads were there. I just don't understand at what reason for any point is particularly if AI is taking so much jobs or anything like that. And I'm doing a whole video on that. But I just can't understand why there is a need for a live round on any type of movie set. Live rounds, there's no need for a live round anywhere. Nowhere.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of mess there because they don't know why live rounds are
Exactly,
even on the set. So,
Yeah.
and then even so, like as QT1 pointed out, blanks can physically threaten someone's life too.
Right.
And I think you said you're gonna go rewatch Sarah, her
I'm gonna watch.
testimony.
Yeah, I'm gonna rewatch
But
Sarah.
the stuff going on with her boss from Seth Kinney, like that's all weird too. They don't think he's a subject. They don't want to investigate him. They don't want to check the stuff that he brought onto the set. But we know that he liked to collect rounds from other sets after they were done shooting together from other movies. Like, I don't know. It seems like the sloppy work could have come from Seth and Sarah. And to me, Sarah's, from a employment standpoint, she's in a position where she's in the same, she has the same responsibility as Hannah Gutierrez Reed does if Hannah Gutierrez Reed is split between two things.
Exactly.
But Sarah's somehow not under the fine lens, and Seth was never under
it's like
any lens.
everybody else is because I think I saw something that because they were talking about these rounds and how did these rounds get on the thing, and I'm just like, that's an interesting question, because why would there be live rounds? Because even though these were guns and they were replicas and things like that, the audience, your viewing audience, understands and knows that there are supposed to be replicas. Things are not supposed to be the exact. So there was no need for any quote unquote realism because of the fact that that's dangerous. Because we found out that blanks were dangerous. What was the name of, what was it, Crow? What was the name of the young man that was it Jason?
Brandon, what's his
Brandon
name?
Lee. Brandon Lee.
Yeah.
We learned then that you can't take a blank type of gun and stick it to your noggin, because of the fact that that's enough force that will cause you to prune yourself from the timeline. So we all understand and we know that even with those things, they're supposed to be careful. But it's like I said, it's a lot. I think that she has some responsibility in it, but the way that they're trying to put all of the responsibility on her, I have an issue with that, because there was just so many breakdowns in the chain of command. There's just so many. It was just so many. But I'm gonna go back and look at that. I'm sorry, but I was
I was gonna say, so Tracker's saying 18 months max, I thought. So that might be true, and if that's true, that's even more generous. Some other states aren't that generous with their, gun-related charges. But yeah, crazy stuff. Honestly, I think the defense attorney has gotten weak during the prosecution's case in chief. I hope he steps it up for Hannah's sake in the defense's case in chief. I don't believe that started yet. Maybe it has. But he fell off. He did a much stronger opening argument than the state did. But watching him cross-examine some witnesses, he is struggling.
He's got that other attorney that's been cross-examining people too. She's doing a fair job, but I'm just more focused. I don't know who this woman is that's sitting at the table with her nighttime beat. I've just been more my mind goes to at heart, I'm a girly girl, so I just watch all that. I'm more focused on the fact that how she's coming in the next day with her makeup and her clothes on than I am focused on what's going on.
The jury could look at that too. I mean, that stuff's important.
Yeah, my mind, I'm like, wow, how does she get her lashes done? Or
I'll say, when you do your recap videos, we're going to be watching for the beauty tips, the beauty breakdown. Who wore it best?
I'm like, did she do her lashes? Those are cute. I'm like, wow, because she came in the other day. She had on like this dress, but it was like she had a tie on and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, she is really over there serving really looks. And I'm just like, it looks like she did Hannah's hair one day that was pinned up. I noticed all those little different things, and then I'm like, wait, hold on. You're supposed to be watching for the trial, Pam, and then I have to go back and rewind. So that's why it blew. I didn't focus on Miss Sarah too much. The only time I really focused on her when she left the courtroom, and she seemed very, very irritated, like this was just beneath her. She's supposed to be on a set somewhere. But anyway,
like, why am I here? Yeah,
why am I here?
I'm gonna do some watching of that too.
Yeah, so I got to go back and watch that. But that's an interesting case of a clear cut of a clusterfuck on a movie set.
All right, Pam, when you do your recap video, I will be in the audience. You guys all in the chat, make sure you look out for Pam. Well, any content that Pam puts out. Don't expect content from me in the next couple of days, but I'll be around eventually. Thank you guys all for your insight, especially in all the Am I the Asshole readings, because everybody's insight's a little bit different there, right? We could all miss certain details. But it's a good learning experience for us all to treat people a little bit better. You guys have a great weekend, a good night, whatever you're doing. Maybe it's morning by you, and take care. Do you want to do your bye-bye, Pam?
Bye-bye.